law provides you have no responsibility in this matter. Number one. Number two, other than to take possession of the property that was funded by public dollars, etc. Here is what I've discerned, and I think one of the ladies called me, and I appreciated her giving me a heads up. They apparently had contracts that ran through the end of July. Problem is, FTE funding ends for the school year on June 30th. FTE dollars would accrue post-June 30th for the new year, right? So they're not going to have any dollars.
But only for the July part, would be dollars up to June?
Through June 30th. They wouldn't have dollars for the June 30th to August 1, that period
Just
of
that
time.
small
Correct.
part.
The law is clear. It says, I'm summarizing, upon closure, they can't expend more than $10,000 on an expenditure, without this board's approval, unless the expenditure was included in their annual budget that had been submitted to the sponsor. So Dr. Rafalski has been working with them to assure. There was a phone conference call this afternoon with Mr. Fisher, Mr. D'Amico, the superintendent, Sarah Graver, myself, Dr. Rafalski. They asked with the remaining money, could they pay, and their attorney was also in, could they pay the employees first? We said that wasn't our decision, that was their board's decision, and there was dead silence, and I said, you are not hearing anybody on this end of the call objecting. They owe some substantial dollars to different vendors. I think the biggest one, unless I'm wrong, is the food service provider. I remember what Schwarzkopf once said, take care of your troops first. So it is their decision whether they take the money they get on the FTE, and as to a forensic audit, we are required, and we are told them we're holding back the $8,000 for it, to conduct an independent audit. It has to be completed within 30 days of the notice of non-renewal, closure, or termination. So Ms. Graver is working on that and getting that. It is my recommendation you approve the closure, because it doesn't in any way take away any of these people's arguments or rights, but come June 30th, there's not going to be an entity to pay anyone, and the administrator won't be working there anymore, and just won't be.
So the original intention of the August 15th final paycheck was for July 31st, because we paid two weeks in the arrears. In addition to that, we were also going to try to cover insurance through the end of August by trying to prepay insurance for 2 months. The expense for that was going to be about $50,000. The insurance company came back and said, if you're no longer an entity as of June 30th and all your employees are considered terminated, by law, the carrier cannot cover employees after that date. So our hands are tied over there. So the only other option that we were looking at every single different avenue, was to try to make some COBRA payments or try to have some additional money. If we knew that there was going to be some funding coming in July, we would try to supplement their paychecks with COBRA benefits. But the problem with COBRA benefits, they're about $1,400 per employee, and you have to cover 2 months. So that's $3,000 per employee times 36 employees. So that's a lot of money. That's $90,000 roughly. So those were the options that we were looking at. We had every good intention to try to make right by these employees, but unfortunately, the district told us as of June 30th, because fiscal year ends June 30th, you are not receiving any additional funding.
They're not one of our schools financially.
Right.
They're the states.
They're our students.
But this is and our students, this is a very complex paradigm. And for example, one of the charter schools we're dealing with, look at their track record across the state. What got talked to here, where they've been kicked out. All right? I mean, I could have told you, predicted some of this stuff. I'm looking at a letter right now you brought it up from their financial entity, saying, based upon the lack of money, we see no way you survive. We're going to work through the end of the month, and that's it. So at the end of the day, this is horrible because there are victims, and it's the teachers and the employees. But at the end of the day, this is not the entity that has the role to financially fix that.
And I'll agree with you, Mr. Kruppenbacher. 4.5 years that I've been there, the school district has had a representative of almost every one of our school board meetings to help us when we strayed, and they said, no, you can't do that. Financially, they've helped us. So they have kept us afloat. If it wasn't for the district, this could have been an ending
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So
We came close to shutting down 2 years ago, 2 weeks before the new year. We were in a lease agreement that was completely bogged down our financials. It was $70,000 to $113,000 a month that they wanted. We stopped paying as much rent that they need. We were paying $70,000 payments for the past year and a half. We accrued, tons of debt just because of that. Prior to that, during the bond negotiation, we stopped paying rent altogether because we were having to fund trying to refinance the school and own it, so our mortgage would go down. So then that current landlord at the time sued our school for almost $1 million. We had to give up $750,000. 100% of our PPE money went directly to our landlord, and they put a judgment against us for another $500,000. And then they sold the building to the current owner for $4 million when they bought it. It's owned by Performance Management, Hawkins Construction Group. So they sold it in December for $4 million when they bought it for 4 years ago. To Mike's point earlier, they got into a bad negotiating deal, or a bad contract, and now they're going to take that property and turn it into multi-purpose, multi-family, residential, whatever. So they bought the school. They told us they were going to work with us. They said they were going to give us rent alleviation. We started staffing up. We hired a whole admin team. We hired a bunch of people. We tried to staff up as much as we could. We've spent $50,000 in curriculum. We gave all of our teachers raises. We asked for the lease agreement in January, didn't get it. We asked in February, we didn't get it. We asked in March, we didn't get it.
Say two final things here. One, I appreciate the fact that you think that the district is helping you. I'm glad that you feel
in
that
this
way,
case,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
At the same time, I feel like sometimes it's not about your emotion that tells you whether somebody's helping you. Sometimes it's the result, right? So that's just my opinion. The result tells you whether somebody's helping you or not. The other thing is, are you gonna, in the end, are you gonna get with these teachers and are you gonna make them apprised of the situation and then try to work something out with them so that they feel like you did the best that you can?
We've communicated as much as we could. We were transparent. We gave them an email trail of, the emails that I sent to the district, Sarah Graber. I sent an email out. There's only so much money that's available to pay them. So we're going to do the best we can to make do with what we have. But we also have to work with our attorney to figure out what we're going to do with the other vendors, because what's going to happen is the food service company is going to file suit. The current person that we have to pay, because the bond went sour 2 years ago, we're paying them $2,500 a month. So we owe about $27,000 to them. We owe the current printer company. They're going to get their equipment back, but they said there's still a lease for 2 years, so they want us to make do on that.
Why pay those
That's
people before
$27,000.
then?
Of course,
Right.
which we're not going to
We
do.
get that, yeah.
We get that.
So even if there's
So-
nothing left over, then those people, they're entities, they'll survive or they won't survive, but certainly they are in a.
So my question to the board then is, whatever money's left, even if it's above and beyond, because we're being told that we have to pay them for budgeted items. So budgeted items means everybody's salaries for that particular pay period. So if I want to pay and we want to pay whatever's left over additional, bonus them, give them whatever, give them stipends, whatever. I want the permission from the board of Osceola County to say, yes, we can pay stipends, whatever money is left over, we can divvy up to the teachers, regardless if it's a budgeted item, means regardless if it's above and beyond their
That is not the
projected
role.
salary.
I've told you on the call, that is not this board's responsibility, it's your board's responsibility.
Okay.
The only time it becomes this board's responsibility, if you want to make an expenditure of $10,000 or more, that's not already allocated or accounted for in your annual budget.
Right.
And I told you that I don't think teacher salaries are outside the annual budget.
Right.
So it's your call.
I think trying to get COBRA benefits for 2 months, trying to figure out what that calculation is and trying to allocate so people at least have insurance and giving them that money to pay for COBRA for 2 months.
I would
be-
give them the cash. I think that they would let them.
Or let them figure out what they
Yeah,
want to do.
Let them figure it out, and, I mean, this is just my opinion, this is not legal advice, certainly. I'm just saying that, you know, these are members of your community, they're with you. Here's the thing, they're upset, right? He's trying, right? You guys can acknowledge that he's trying, you know? He's not the bad guy. I mean, I'm the one who always gets called the bad guy everywhere, so it's not him, he's not the boogeyman, you know, he's trying. And I know Mr. Fisher, and Mr. Fisher has a good heart. I know that he's going to try. I can see that your guys' effort is to come here and try. Most people wouldn't have had the guts to come here at all.
Thank you.
I don't see their principle here.
So, you know, I appreciate that. I think that you guys should just go into the lobby and get on the same page with one another and let them do best by you. If we can, I don't know if we can. Is that considered an emergency?
I will tell you this, I will consider it legally emergency for this reason. If you go out and come back in and make a request tonight, Madam Chair, and add it to the agenda, because if word gets out what you're trying to do, you may have some vendor run into court tomorrow to lock up both
I'll
sides.
make a motion.
And so, why don't you figure out what you want to ask?
New business.
Run it,
Separate motion.
I'll get with you, run it by me so
Yeah.
it reads right to protect the board and members of the board. And Madam Chair, I'd recommend you say based upon an emergency, you're going to add it to the agenda.